Welcome back to the Anachroschism. When we left off last time, the party was in a bit of a pickle, at least given the current situation and deciding how many people were on board with the present plan, as far as their adversaries go. We are in Barren Mill, small farm, grain and such, and currently Grail is disguised as her brother, and Isaac's trying to help people, and Karash is shielding him, and Testian's holding Holden hostage, and it's a whole thing. So, we pick up with the remaining Blades members who are not down in the open part of the room, still pointing crossbows at you, waiting to see what comes of this. Isaac, you had just made a roll to see if the guy could be stabilized. It should be noted that the two guys you stabilized, the ones that were not lay on hands by Karash or Cure Wounds, I forget which it was. Which one of you guys?
I didn't touch anybody. That
Okay,
was
so it must be Lena then.
Yeah.
The one that was not Cure Wounds, they're still both unconscious. But
they're going to be like, they both get up and fire their crossbows at you.
from the ground, like the Dear Sister thing, right? It's a reference. Look it up.
What you say?
We are out of initiative order for this, but at this point, you guys have sort of made a show of good faith, but what do you want to do going further? The rest of the people there have not lowered their crossbows, and some of them were the ones that still actively fired recently.
I'm going to whisper to the shard while we're crouched over or in front of Isaac. Do you have anything to cover our retreat if we have to run?
I'll say it in Draconic. Not really. Only my body, I guess.
All right.
Do you?
I asked you because I don't have anything. That if we have to run, and I'll make sure Isaac gets out of here.
We'll see if it comes to that.
This is normal.
Anybody else?
I'm just working on, dude.
Testian's waiting to see who gets shot first, really. That's really how this is going.
Wait, so is the guy stabilized yet or no?
So Michaelis, Lena stabilized one. I stabilized another. Now I'm working on my second guy. This will be all of the three that were downed of that initial burst.
Yeah, because there were two more that were dead, one in that burst, and one of the 8 out in the room still.
And there's some that the shard just absolutely detonated, and I don't think I'm going to be able to help them, but I'm going to focus on these guys.
Yeah, he did one-shot one of them. It was grotesque. He exploded from within.
Good.
You do notice at a certain point here that the remaining members, especially the ones that did not fire this round, do appear to be lowering their weapons. And they're trying to sort of turn to the others and tell them to do the same. The others are not necessarily so certain. In fact, one of them, in the spirit of behind the curtain type stuff, rolled a natural 20 as far as trying to figure out what was going on and seeing the scene across the room. So he's not entirely sure if everybody's story checks out, largely because not all of your stories check out. But most of them seem to be kind of lowering their weapons tentatively. None of them have dropped them yet, but there does seem to be some headway being made as far as convincing them that this is the right course of action. Now, nobody says a thing. No one's going to try and sell this any harder. You're just going to let
no
this
one
rock
else
as
is going to say anything. I'll be like...
Are you going to be long?
I'll tell you how
Isaac?
this is going to go if nobody else says anything
I was
else.
gonna say, if you think Testian's going to sell this stupid idea, you are wrong. He's letting this fail on its own, sans his input. So he's just going to stand there.
Else talk, but I will yell, so have you changed your minds then?
This is like the person they want to hear from the least, but... the guy who was kind of speaking for them before says, I suppose it'd be nice if you could wake him up. Don't know that this is... I mean, we're kind of far away. Could just be some kind of trick. Everything about this so far has been sort of a trick.
Okay, I'm just going to reach back and lay on hands for like 5 points to get him up quickly.
Okay.
I was about to ask that, so that's perfect.
You do notice a sudden surge, and again, before it was stopping the bleeding, making sure he was at least not going to die from this. Now the life returns to him, and even though he's still pretty messed up, he is conscious. kind of looking about to get his whereabouts and figure out what in the world's going on. The first guy that Lena healed also has returned to consciousness, and at this point, he's looking around very confused.
Does this look like a trick now?
You almost sound upset about the idea that we might be somewhat off-put by what's happening here. About 10 minutes ago, we were all having a nice conversation, and all of a sudden, 2 of my brothers are dead, and even if you're nursing some back to life, you'll forgive me if I don't just drop my weapon at the first sign of good faith. That said, boys, they delivered on their end of the bargain. We should do the same. And all of them but one does so. They put their crossbows on the ground in front of them. They still have their daggers on their hips, on their waist, but they are not actively drawn, and they don't seem to be making any attempts to grab them. The last guy, hero with a crossbow, says, "What guarantee do we have that you're not going to hurt our boss as soon as we get this over with?"
None. All you can take is good faith that I'm healing your people, and when I finished, we will go our way, and you can all go your way. We will release your boss in the future. I promise he'll be fine.
It's good, because at the first sentence of that speech, he was going to fire. But you got there, it was fine. But he was on the fringe. And he very hesitantly puts his crossbow on the ground as well.
I kind of like struggle a little bit in Tessian's grip just to try and sell it some more.
Tessian will play along. Just sort of like rustle you back into place.
Yeah.
But without touching.
No touching!
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so you have a room full of 7 Blades members who have crossbows on the ground, 2 more by you who are conscious and hurt, but hanging in there, and 1 more who is unconscious but not dying. What do you want to do?
I'm gonna mumble to Isaac, ready to leave?
I'm not done with my guy yet, right?
No, he's fine. That's the one that
my
Parash laid on hands.
Oh, okay. So he brought him to health.
Yep. Waiting on you.
So then I nod to Karash. I think we're good.
I'm gonna stand up slowly and start walking back towards the rest of the party.
Okay, Tessian whispers at this point. He's like, "So our plan is to leave? We need to clear these people out."
I can't hear that, can I?
It depends on how loud you want to be about it. There's 2 blades within earshot.
And
You said you backed up. Tessian's gonna say he doesn't care. I mean, those 2 blades can just hear. I don't know.
Through gritted teeth, I'm like, let's get to a safe distance first, and then we can worry about the next step.
This is incredibly aggravating.
Oh my god! I
All
wish
right.
I had a.
Listen up, all of you. We are here because we were sent here by a local town of some sort. And we are here to kill you all, or make you leave. We don't really care which one. What we do know is that this town is aware of your presence here. If we die, they will send more. If you die, they will not. If you leave, they will not. We can continue this battle, or we can both leave this godforsaken place and go our separate ways.
Make a persuasion check.
Can I
Tessian
do
says,
intimidate?
Finally, someone who makes sense around here.
May I use intimidate, please?
Great way to waste the last 2 hours.
Sure.
It was kind of scary.
It kind of was.
I did threaten to kill them. Hold on, I gotta move back to my chat.
You didn't threaten to hug them.
That's true.
I feel like the implication was more that we would try to kill them, and/or someone after our dead bodies would try to kill them.
Did it not?
I mean, in fairness, we did just knock down a good chunk of them in a couple of seconds. So
I don't disagree.
That's what I was going to say is like, we'd never got to it, but I'm like, it's your lives on the line. You might not believe me, but...
Hold on, it didn't go through. One sec.
You did get a surprise round on them to make all those inroads.
18.
we don't need to explain that to them.
That's true, yeah. Well, you see, there's this game mechanic where you're like, what? 18. At this point, all their eyes dart to Holden. And the main one of the group that sort of seems to speak for them says, well, boss, if we abandon it now, we're going to eat a loss on everything. I don't know how that works out for the boys, but it's your call. What should we do?
We've already been eating a loss. We talked about this. This place is no good. I think we need to cut our losses and leave.
Very well. If that's how this outcome has to go. That said, you'll be leaving first, not us.
Tessian will be like, and of course we'll be back to make sure you've left.
That's fair. That old couple in the house should serve as proof anyways. They only seem to know when we're coming and going.
Right.
So we're not going to abandon this place while there's still others inside of it. So if those terms are agreeable, we'll back down.
Tessian will just sort of like, I don't know, kind of grab Grail on the back or kind of he'll be like, come on then. And he'll try to like move her along. Like get back around the corner to leave.
Shall we?
Okay. Everybody going?
Yeah, might as well.
As you guys leave, you do kind of faintly hear behind you what sounds like very quiet bickering amongst the remainder that are still there. Can't really make out what's being said, but it does. You do hear like, you know, that kind of whispering that sort of elevates in intensity. You know, I thought you said we would do this one. Yeah, that kind of stuff. You know, difficult to make out what they're saying, but they do appear to have at least a little bit of infighting among themselves. But as you make your way back down the corridor and it gets darker again, you do not notice anybody following you. For the time being, they all seem to be holding up their end of the bargain. You guys head back
Did
out.
they just?
Go ahead.
Did they just tell us that that's the only way in and out? I'm just saying, if that's the case.
They certainly seem to imply it.
I got a heavy impression from that farming couple that there were more entrances.
Agreed. Still, we can't. We're going to have to come back here. There's no way around this. We may even want to stake this place out to make sure they actually leave. I must say, this whole plan is just ridiculous, but if we're going to do it this way, we need to at least make sure we do it through.
We can go back and kill them all now if you'd prefer.
I mean, I would, but I feel like some of us would probably fight me on that issue.
There is one problem. I'm supposed to be Holden. Am I supposed to wait around for them? I don't know what my particular plan is for this. I didn't think this far in advance.
Perhaps you would prefer to pretend that you had escaped and run back to them.
I don't want to run back to them.
Let's cool it on the big plans for a second. We got what we needed from the Gambit. We learned more about where Holden is and that he's close by.
Is that what we needed?
I don't know if that's what you needed, but I don't
That's what I
worry
needed.
myself much with what you needed, Tessian.
Yes, I was under the impression we needed to get them out of here and make sure that that happened.
Well, it looks like we're on our way, doesn't it?
Well, certainly. You know, if we're looking at the small picture, not the make sure it actually gets done picture. Anyway, this disguise here for Grail isn't going to hold up, and Tessin will just like brush his hand all through her pretend shoulders and stuff. Just to show that there's no way she can go back,
Oh, yeah.
essentially.
No, there's no way. I am concerned about how this is going to play up when they actually meet Holden again.
Yes, it would certainly be easier if they were all dead.
It's
Yeah, you know,
It's true.
speaking of that, why don't we just get to the bottom of that right now? I was under the impression that our leader agreed with me that we are not to be judge, jury, and executioner across everyone we come by.
Oh, God.
Welcome, Lena.
Hello. Okay, so... Gosh, I'm going to kind of keep my head low at first, and then I'm gonna say I don't disagree in regards to killing innocents, but I also recognize that sometimes we need to fight to protect ourselves, and you know, if we hadn't, there's a chance they could have killed us, and where do we draw the line, I suppose? It's not so simple. I've been learning very quickly that the outside world is not easy, and we have to be prepared to make sacrifices, and if we need to kill to protect ourselves and keep going, maybe that's what we have to do. I don't have a good answer for you, Isaac, but I agree that now that they're alive, then if they report to the real Holden about this could be problematic for us moving forward. I'm not sure what we should do. And considering that we're doing all this to get the teleportation circle to Lycidian, it feels like we've kind of made a detour of sorts.
I just think this is what separates us from them. You understand that, don't you? And for all of the talk of Tessian saying he's afraid of me going down a dark path, I would volley that same concern at him. We kill because we feel like we need to. Is that the case? Do we know? And where does it end for us?
Might I recommend we have this conversation in the farmhouse?
Well, we're still walking, I'm assuming.
Yeah, about halfway there. It's a bit of a trek.
Tessian just agrees with the shard. He's like, I agree. If we're going to have this discussion, we should do it in a place, maybe over some drinks. Something where, you know, yelling at each other will be okay.
Oh, Tessian, have I upset you? Will there be yelling?
I can assure you, Isaac, there will be yelling.
Well, I would say maybe during our stakeout that we have planned, maybe yelling isn't the best part there. Some of us may need to demonstrate some self-control. It seems like we're not great with that lately, but maybe we can work on it.
I'm going to whisper to Karash in Draconic. Are these two married?
And in Draconic, I have no concept of what marriage is in this culture. None. They're certainly similar to old married couples I have met, but I have no idea. They're like this constantly, at each other's throats. There's no sense behind it.
You guys just hear a string of like 25 seconds of Draconic that you do not understand. I don't think any of you speak that besides Karash.
That's so cute.
I should verify this, by the way, just to make sure nobody else hears it on this. The only one who has a shot is
I don't.
Lena, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna try looking.
Double check for me if you would.
And literally as it's happening, I'm like, good. This is good. Excellent.
Yeah, Karash and I are debating the validity of your point.
Yeah. That's what I think. Definitely.
Oh, God.
I know you can understand in your pseudo-dragon form. I don't know if it's one of your base languages.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, I mean, you guys can keep going.
I'm searching.
We'll find out if you actually know what they're saying or not down the road here.
Why don't you two do a trial by combat? Whoever wins has the more valid point.
Why don't you shut your face, Shad? You are not part of our group. You're here to prove that you're not a madman. So just cool it, maybe.
And yet you're the one screeching.
Is this screeching to you?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I can't. Elven, Dwarven, and Common.
So yeah, everybody else has no idea what Karash and Shard are talking about on these asides.
I love it.
I worry not about the opinion of some trinket.
Worry not, Shard. I have definitely considered the perks of a legalized duel with this fool.
What makes you think it has to be legal? On a
Well,
farm.
you make a good point, but I prefer to do things on the up and up. Wouldn't want any of this blowing back on Lena or the rest of us.
As you say.
A duel. It sounds like something you would be okay with, Tessian, as someone who doesn't value life.
He's going to ignore that. It's ridiculous. He just laughs. He just chuckles.
So in the light of one of your guys' lanterns or whatever, I know you have light sources, but the tunnel is as quiet as you've heard it as you finish the remainder of the last couple minutes of walking to the farmhouse, other than the odd footfall. That's quiet, but still audible in the silence that surrounds it. You make your way back to a familiar hatch where you can see the light of what you presume is the lights on upstairs in the farmhouse, kind of leaking through the cracks on the side. Made it back to the farmhouse.
We'll go upstairs.
Okay. What's your marching order?
I'll go first.
I'll be next to Karash.
I'll be fairly up towards the front as well, because I am not a fan of this current conversation.
You mean going from the tunnel like into the house, right? When you say like upstairs? Not like upstairs into the second story of the house.
Right.
Okay.
Coming from the underground back into the first floor of the farmhouse.
I'll be in the back. I don't care.
Okay.
I guess I'm in the front with Tessian since he was like holding me
This whole time.
I'm not still, but yeah.
I know, but it makes probably sense to just keep that order.
Okay. As you guys emerge from the hatch, farmhouse is empty.
They said
I would go to check. They said they were going to lock themselves in.
The grain silo?
Yeah, so I'm going to go. And I'm going to say I'm going to go check on them.
Okay.
I am gonna go with Isaac. I'm gonna catch up with them.
Is there anything obviously heavy that I can put over the trapdoor so that they can't come back through this way?
There are a couple of cabinets or bookcases around that could probably serve that purpose.
Cool. I'll start shuffling that around and ask for help if necessary.
I'll help him.
Okay. Make an athletics check with advantage. Anybody else?
God, Tessian's probably just gonna pace around and stew.
I'm probably going to stay inside as well and kind of just maybe glance at Tessian as he's pacing around, kind of nervously standing there.
Okay. Crash.
16.
Okay. There's a cabinet that looks remarkably like the one over your left shoulder, and you're able to move it. Look, visualize it. There it is. You're able to move it in position to where it would take a Herculean feat for someone without much leverage to be able to push that off from the underside.
Cool.
Isaac, as you head out, the farmland's still very quiet. Like when you guys came in, you don't see any other bodies about tending to the crops or anything. It is now firmly in the evening time, probably getting to be like 8 o'clock. There's still enough light to kind of see the immediate surroundings of the farmhouse and the silo. You make your way over to it, and...
I mean, as far as on the walk, I am not saying anything yet.
That's fine. What are you doing at the silo?
If Grail, are you just there with me? You're not...
No, I am gonna catch up with you because I know you just took off without really much, and I'm just going to kind of fall in step with you and quietly just say, I feel like I bungled something up real bad.
Trust me, Grail, you did great. It wasn't you.
That was not great, and I feel like we just made things worse. I want to talk about it right now, but I'm sorry. I have to apologize to everyone later too.
Don't put it on yourself, and certainly don't apologize. You are capable, and you should be confident of your abilities. Don't apologize for something you didn't do wrong.
I didn't confer with anybody on our plan. We just went with it, and they had no idea, and this is what happened, and I feel awful.
But what happened? We probably, I like to think likely, cleared out the abandoned base, and you found out more about your brother. He's closer than he's ever been.
That's true, and I'm actually concerned about that. But I just feel like the group is falling apart at the seams. I feel like I'm to blame. I don't know.
It's not you to blame. Tessian and I cannot see eye to eye. And
I know. You don't gotta tell me.
And I don't know if there's a place for me in this group for much longer. if I'm going to be honest with you.
I kind of thought you were going to say something like that sooner or later. I wonder myself, but the truth is I really like having you around. I think you offer something that no one else does here, and I don't want to leave the group, but I don't want you to leave either.
Well, I suppose it's tomorrow's problem. I'm going to
True.
do my best to not make a rash decision tonight. And
That would be good.
we can tackle it when it comes. For now, and I'm assuming we're there. We probably got in there and just kept talking.
Yeah, you guys were walking really slowly to cover the 35 feet between the...
I'm going to kind of tap on the door and just say, did we find out their names?
I think you got the wife's name.
I don't remember it.
Janet
Former
Weiss?
man and wife. Are
Yeah,
you
that's
in
fine.
there? I say under my, kind of quiet. I don't know why. I just quietly, though.
Is it done? Is it safe to come out? You hear the wife chime in.
We've secured a truce with the bandits. They have promised they are going to vacate shortly.
Well,
So, no, they're not out yet, but we're going to stick around until that happens. We're not going to leave you here with them.
and you hear the latch on the door release, and the door kind of swings open with a creak, and inside are the farmer and his wife, old as ever, unharmed, looking a little hairy just by the whole experience, but I think more than anything, you can kind of see from the two of them it's relief as well. It's a little bit of both. They're still a bit uncertain, especially because, at the news that this isn't necessarily over yet, but the fact that you talk about sticking around, they seem, by and large, okay with what's going on.
So we're going to bring you over to the house now. I hope you don't mind me asking, because I'm relatively impatient. Have you... It came to our attention that there may have been a man passing through here. Would have been yesterday. Grail, you can probably describe him better than me.
Yes,
Probably.
I can. Totally. I didn't think about his appearance. Right.
You're
So
not
I'm
still
gonna
looking,
just.
You're not still looking
Jeez.
like him, are you?
Oh
We haven't talked
God!
about
I didn't
dropping
know.
form, but I kind of figured you might have once you got to there. But what's your
I
situation
did no.
here?
I actually didn't. So that's
Well-
probably really confusing for them. Jesus.
I assumed... I thought Jason brushing through the magic drops the form.
I don't think it
Yeah.
does.
No,
would-
it just reveals
It tells you that
as
it's not what it's meant to be. So if somebody's like purporting their size to be larger and your hand passes through and catches something solid inside, you kind of know like something's going on. But it
So,
doesn't just
this-
drop the illusion.
So this is kind of like retconning, but I don't think there's any other use for me to keep in that form right now. I probably would have dropped
I
it.
didn't imagine you would have, but I
Yeah.
wanted to ask because it would be a different way the scene would go.
I also can't imagine
Yes.
I would have had a heartfelt conversation with you while you were looking like Holden.
We have
Yeah,
more clues
yeah.
about your brother than ever before, your brother.
I like you better
Yes.
this way.
Take off your illusionary
yeah,
shirt. Okay, so you describe Holden best you... well, you can do it quite well. I don't have to be like, roll a history check for your brother.
God knows what he looks like now, though. I mean, honestly, I'm surprised that my interpretation of what he looked like was the same.
Well, you've seen him in your dreams, supposedly. So if your dreams are presumably accurate, then
He's obscured, though, in a lot of them, so it's hard to say. But at any rate, it's good to know that.
You give a description of your brother best as you know, which, you haven't seen him in a bit, but you knew him for so long that it's certainly not hard to describe. It does catch the farmer's attention, and he says, yeah, we saw that young man. Passes through here, I don't know, once every couple of months. He was just here yesterday.
Did he mention where he was headed? Probably not to you, but to maybe some of his henchmen.
It seems like the more important ones among them are not careless with their speech. They didn't really talk about anything of import when they were coming through here just to get to the access to the tunnel. He headed west, but we don't know where he was going.
Thank you.
Wes.
This was more of a help than you may think.
Absolutely. Huh. Yesterday, I kind of like looked down as we're walking back to the house, just kind of thinking about where he could be going and how we just kind of missed each other.
Okay.
As soon as they leave, I'm going to turn to the shard, make the room messy without breaking things. I'll be right back. And I'm going to run out to the cart and grab the rug and bring it back and drop it in front of the trapdoor.
Okay.
And then I'm going to shove the thing back off the trapdoor behind it so that here's the theory, the plan. If they come back out of here, we can use the rug to trap one of them, and then I can drop the cabinet down on top of the hatch and keep the rest of them trapped / not smash them, Isaac, I promise.
So when they're leaving peacefully, on accordance to what we agreed to.
Hey, you're not there. Shut up.
You're not there. Shut up.
Karash, might I recommend that we don't trap their exit points. If they are trying to leave, I think we should let them.
Why not?
Well, you see, if we start killing them as they are agreeing with our accord, they might say, come back in greater force and murder these farmers.
But I really want to kill them.
As you say, we can do it exactly like that.
I guess speaking in Draconic or common?
Oh,
I'm
if we're
speaking in
talking...
common.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Because
yeah.
if you guys are talking about that, I am going to chime in and say, well, with all the work that we took to make sure that they leave peacefully, I think we should stick with that. I'm sorry, Karash. We shouldn't back out on our word. We should try to do this peacefully. I think there's value in that.
Can I still try to trap one of them?
As much as I don't disagree with you, Lena, I will point out that if they do go back to whoever it is that runs this organization of theirs, there's a very real chance that the fact that this farm has been ousted as a point of operation, they may come back and try to burn the place down anyway, just because we let them live.
You're right. It would have been easier if we had killed them, but I'm feeling so conflicted over everything lately. And with that, I'm going to walk outside.
Okay.
If we get lucky, we will only trap one and kill none of them.
Tessian will kind of follow Lena out, but he gives Crash a pat on the the arm as he goes out, and like a nod, like keep it up, like he agrees with whatever it is that you decide to do here.
All right, I'm gonna set up behind the cabinet in the event that I need to push it over.
Okay. Rug spread out on the floor, right by the steps of the.
Yeah.
Okay. Shard, you gonna knock anything over like he said?
I'm going to make it look disturbed without breaking anything.
Okay.
Say,
Make a performance. No.
Strixiki, I will say this. While I don't particularly care for that man Isaac, I will say that unwarranted bloodshed will not be in our best interest at this point.
Then we should not smash them if we don't have to.
I'm saying if we set up an ambush, and it looks like we set up an ambush, that will also not serve our ends. I cast Detect Magic.
Okay. Still pointing you right towards Karash's heart.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you wish to be free of him, unfortunately.
All right, so are we back at the...
Yeah, as you guys are now
house?
making your way back with the farmer and his wife, you see Lena, and then shortly thereafter, Tessian exiting the farmhouse as you guys return.
Okay.
And pass without saying anything. Grail and Isaac, you head inside the house. Inside.
Oh, wait. Do you want us to pass without... I was thinking about something.
I'm not going to say anything.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to say anything.
Well, I was just going to say, like, are we going to have the conclave now, or is that later tonight?
It seems like we should probably have this later when we, are safe.
I keep walking, and I just... Okay, sign.
Tessian will try to see if there's a good spot to have a stakeout, since that's apparently at least some part of this plan. Like a grain silo, the top of it, if they've got a ladder to up the sides, then that would probably be good. Then maybe a barn with like a top floor that we could try to hide in. Something that has like a good visual view of the farmhouse and like the surrounding area, but is out of sight.
You don't even need to make a check for that because it's relatively straightforward, because in the middle of all these tall husks and stuff that essentially obscure the area, there is a barn and there is the silo. The silo does have a ladder up to get to the top, and there is enough room for probably one person to perch up there and have a vantage point because it's not a very large window at the top. The barn has a bigger opening on the second floor where you could probably put more people, but it might also be easier to be seen in it because the opening's wider. But there are both possibilities there that could serve as a vantage point for the farmhouse. Neither of them up on the second floor really gives you a vantage point to see the trapdoor that leads to the underground passage, but at least gives you some eyes on the first floor in some regard.
Tessian's going to climb the grain silo anyway, just to kind of clear his head. He prefers the tall places, so...
Okay.
Well, at first I'm going to, like, kick the dirt a little bit because I'm frustrated at myself, and then I'm going to see that Tessian is, like, climbing up the thing, and then I'm going to turn into my dragon form and fly up there and perch on his shoulder.
Okay.
Assuming that he doesn't, like, swat me away and is like, get off! No!
Grab you. You're mine now, little dragon.
A spy.
I caught a dragon, everyone.
She's with the blades. All right. Grail, Isaac, as you guys walk back in the house with the farmer and his wife and the Dell, you see a couple of things have been changed since you were last in there. There's a handful of items that are kind of like scattered across the ground, nothing broken. You see a cabinet that wasn't quite where it once was, and there's a rug on the floor that you feel like you kind of recognize, but everything else seems to be in good working order. I'm
confused, and I kind of, like, my heart kind of leaps into my throat, and I'm like, who's there? Is somebody there? I did not know Karash was doing this.
I'm going to come around the cabinet and go, shh. We are waiting.
What are you doing?
Waiting for them to come out.
Why did you mess up their house?
The cabinet was moved. If the rest of the house was in order, it wouldn't make sense.
What? Oh. Crash. What are you doing with the cabinet? What is this? Aren't we gonna go outside and stake out?
I wish to catch one of them.
Why? Crash.
I don't even want to deal with this. I'm gonna talk to the farm wife. She seems very friendly.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say, like, for however much anybody can pick up on or cares to, I seem conflicted. I seem like I don't exactly. I'm struggling with something. And I ask them, these bandits, have they treated you well? Have they been prone to violence, or have they just been, bandits doing bandit things, but otherwise relatively harmless?
Occasionally one of them would get out of hand a little bit, but for the most part, if they ever have any of their superiors here, they've been virtually no trouble. Sometimes they get a little bossy. Occasionally they want us to serve them food as opposed to whatever they've got going on down there, but by and large, it's been I don't want to say pleasant, but it's been an amicable experience. It kind of serves both needs. We get to keep the farm, and we can pretty much do whatever we want to above the ground, and we just kind of have to serve as a post for them. But luckily, not anything in the way of violence or anything of that nature. They occasionally get a little drunk and out of hand, or, again, if they're left to their own devices, some of them get a little demandy. But overall, it's been fine.
How many people live on this farm? And I kind of gesture to the wider farm. And is it just you two?
Just the two of us. Has been for a long time now. What do you think, dear? About 15 years? He says, no, more like 20. You always get that number wrong. We've been together for almost 25. And she's like, yes, dear, I know. I'm sorry. It's just, they all blend together as you start to get up there in years,
And my last question, if we were to let them go, return to their base, would you fear some retribution on their end? Do they seem like the type who would maybe take out their frustrations on the farm or on you?
I suppose it depends on what you agreed to. If it was just for the people who were here to leave, that's one thing. If it was for them to never come back, I could imagine there might be a couple people who'd be upset about that.
Thank you. And I just go back to thinking.
Okay.